We live in a world tuned to a major key. It's a world of declarations, of instant reactions, of noise as a measure of presence. But there exists a different frequency. It's not broadcasted, it's received. This is where the quiet observer lives. They are the person in the cafe watching the rain trail down the window, seeing more than just weather, seeing time, patience, and the melancholy beauty of transient things. For them, the world isn't just experienced, it's interpreted. Where a crowd sees a busy street, they see 100 solo journeys intersecting, each face a story paused mid-sentence. A conversation isn't a simple exchange of words. It's a layered composition, the spoken text, the subtext humming beneath it, the body language that contradicts or confirms, and the resonant silence that holds what can never be said. They answer questions slowly, not from uncertainty, but from a profound sense of responsibility. To them, language is architecture. Each word a brick, and they are careful builders constructing truths meant to last. This is the mind of an observer. Not passive, but profoundly active in its reception. They live in the world of echoes and implications as much as in the world of solid objects and spoken facts. A single glance from a stranger can seed an entire narrative in their mind. A shared silence with a friend can feel like the most intimate conversation of all. But to navigate life on this frequency is to hold a double-edged gift. The very sensitivity that allows them to perceive profound beauty also lets them feel the weight of hidden pain. They hold the exquisite joy of a moment in one hand, and in the other, the quiet ache of knowing it will pass. To understand this person, you must understand the central tension of their existence. The war between a deep, magnetic connection to everything, and the absolute, non-negotiable need to retreat from it all to survive. Society has a simple label for this: overthinking. It's framed as a pathology, a glitch to be fixed. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding. For the observer, this deep processing isn't a bug. It's the core operating system. Thinking for them is seeing. It's the process of translation. They don't just hear a piece of music. They hear the longing woven into the melody, the history of the composer's heart, the way the crescendo mirrors the rise and fall of human hope itself. They don't just see a tree losing its leaves. They see a lesson in surrender, a display of trust in an unseen cycle. They find metaphors everywhere because, to them, the world is a symbolic language. A crack in a sidewalk isn't just a flaw, it's a record of pressure, time, and resilience. A relationship is a living ecosystem, a garden that needs specific nutrients of trust, pruning of grievances, and the sunlight of attention. Psychologically, this is often anchored in a trait known as sensory processing sensitivity. It's not a disorder but an innate, neutral trait found in about 20% of the population. Imagine their nervous system not as broken, but as a high-fidelity receiver. Where others have filters that block out background data, the flicker of a fluorescent light, the subtle tension in a person's shoulders, the emotional charge in a room after an argument, the observer system takes it all in. Every piece of data is registered, logged, and sent for processing. This is linked to what neuroscientists call deeper cognitive processing. It's a neurological imperative to integrate information fully, to drill down past the what to the why, to seek the root cause beneath the surface effect, to find the pattern in the apparent chaos. Their mind is not a simple recorder. It is an archivist cataloging emotional metadata. It is a cartographer trying to draw a coherent map of the invisible, ever-shifting terrain of human experience. But this beautiful, complex machinery has an immediate social cost. It operates on a delay. In a fast-paced conversation, while others are volleying responses, the observer is several layers deep, deciphering the code of a micro-expression, analyzing the slight shift in tone, unpacking the third meaning of a seemingly simple sentence. By the time they have synthesized a thoughtful, integrated response, the social moment has often moved on. The window for the quick, easy reply has closed. So they adapt. They speak less. And in a world that mistakes speed for intelligence and volume for confidence, their quiet is frequently misread as emptiness, shyness, or disinterest, when in reality that silence is not a void. It is a cathedral, a vast, structured, and sacred interior space of thought. This creates a very specific social appetite. The observer doesn't crave small talk because, to their processing mind, it feels cognitively expensive and emotionally nutrient-poor. It's like being asked to survive on literary candy when you crave a full, hearty meal. Skimming the first page of 1,000 books leaves them starving. They hunger for the chapters beneath the surface. They crave conversations that begin where most end. Not what do you do, but what makes you feel alive. Not gossip, but discussions about the architecture of regret, the sound of personal growth, the ghosts of our former selves that still wander our present decisions. They are drawn to the fragile, glorious, and terrifying absurdity of being a self-aware creature in an uncertain universe. For them, a truly meaningful connection is a mutual dive into deep water, not a splash in the social shallows. But this capacity for depth is also the source of their greatest weight. The observer feels life's collisions with a different physics. A casual, offhand criticism from a coworker isn't just a momentary sting. It becomes a complex data set. It's replayed, analyzed for tone and context, cross-referenced with past interactions, and examined for potential hidden truths about their own performance or the relationship's health. It can fuel hours of internal processing. A broken promise or betrayal isn't merely a personal disappointment. It can feel like a fracture in the very logic of trust, a fundamental principle of their worldview proven unstable. Their empathy is not a passive feeling of sad for you. It is an immersive, almost somatic experience. They can intellectually understand why a person acts from a place of pain or fear, yet they will also feel the reverberations of that pain in their own system. This is the profound burden of seeing the invisible threads that connect all things. You feel every single tug on the web. You absorb the unspoken anxieties in a room, the hidden grief behind a smile, the collective stress of a crowd. You don't just witness emotion, you resonate with it. This is why you will so often find them in solitude. The long aimless walk. The corner seat in a library. Staring out the window of a train, lost not in nothing but in everything. This is not an act of loneliness. This is an act of survival and restoration. Solitude is their sanctuary. In the quiet, the overwhelming, constant input from the world finally settles. The emotional static fades. Here they can perform the essential task of separation, disentangling their own feelings from the emotional energy they've absorbed from others. It's a decompression chamber for the soul. In this private, unobserved space, their thoughts are finally allowed to unfold at their natural, sprawling pace. They replay memories, not to punish themselves but to understand. They might revisit a joyful moment to deconstruct its ingredients. What combination of light, sound, and connection made it so perfect? They examine periods of sadness not just to feel them again, but to find their edges, to map their contours, to learn what this particular shade of blue can teach them. This internal space is where they conduct their most important work. A silent, continuous, and vital dialogue with existence itself. It is their mind's native language. However, a mind this powerful can turn on itself. Without an outlet, deep processing can spiral into rumination, the compulsive, repetitive focus on distress and its causes. For the observer, this often isn't born from negativity, but from a relentless pursuit of resolution and understanding. Their brain seeks closure, craves a completed equation, demands sense from contradiction. This is where the overthinker label seems to stick. They can think themselves into emotional corners. They can analyze a romantic gesture until its spontaneous magic feels mechanical and plotted. They can study their own anxiety so closely they become anxious about being anxious. There is a term for this, metacognition, thinking about your own thinking. While everyone does this occasionally, the observer can get trapped in the meta layer, watching their thoughts from a distance, analyzing the analyzer. It's like possessing a microscope of phenomenal power. While it reveals stunning, hidden worlds, if you turn it on everyday life, on a casual comment, a delayed text, a change in plans, you start to see patterns, meanings, and threats that were never meant to be perceived at that scale. A simple silence becomes a calculated slight. A forgotten detail becomes proof of dwindling care. The gift of seeing deeply can, without balance, distort the field of view and create prisons of interpretation. The way out of this loop is not to think less but to channel more. The unexpressed inner life eventually becomes a weight, a pressure that needs release. The healthiest observers learn to build bridges. They learn the art of translation, turning the invisible currency of their inner world into something tangible in the outer world. They turn reflection into creation. The swirl of emotion becomes a sketch in a notebook. An insight about human nature becomes a paragraph in a story. A moment of beauty becomes a photograph or a melody. The tangled garden of their thoughts finds order in planting a real, physical garden. This act of creation is not a hobby, it is a vital psychological process. It is how they ground their electricity. They become the individuals in a group who can articulate the feeling everyone is swimming in but no one can name. They are the ones who, in a conflict, don't just see two opposing sides. They see the two wounded histories that collided to create the sides. Their gift, when they learn to wield it, is to bring clarity to complexity and compassion to judgment. They don't just solve problems. They reframe them so others can see a path forward. So, if you recognize yourself in this portrait, understand this. Your quiet is not a weakness. It is your processing power. Your pauses are not indecision. They are precision. Your need to retreat is not antisocial. It is metabolic, necessary processing for the data you've collected. In a cultural landscape that shouts, your depth is a form of light. You were not engineered for the shallow end of the human experience. Your mind is built for the deep waters, where the pressure is immense, the light is strange, and the treasures are found by those willing to dive. That pressure is what shapes you into something stronger, more nuanced, more resilient, and ultimately more real. You honor life not by skimming its sparkling surface, but by diving for its sunken truths. You remind us that to observe closely, to truly see another person or a moment, is a profound act of love. You prove that to think deeply is, at its core, to care deeply. And in the relentless rush of noise, haste, and simplistic certainty, your steady, quiet frequency is an anchor. It is a calming signal in the static. It is a living reminder that the most important things, authentic meaning, genuine connection, enduring truth, are never found in the frantic roar. They are always waiting in the resonant, fertile silence that follows.